Okay, so now we are recording. Can you both see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk, it's Unit 3. We're going to talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion practice in early years setting. Can any one of you tell me what's equality, diversity, and inclusion? Do you have any idea about these terms? Anyone of these terms you think is familiar?
I think equality is about if he is a religion or if have a disability or any kind of he should
Good
study like
morning.
I'm
Yeah.
Lana.
Yeah,
Hi.
Chinol.
Yes,
How are you? Good morning.
thank you. I'm good.
Okay, so today we do in Unit 3.
Sorry about that. I'm late because
Oh, that's fine.
Teams
As
is
long as
not
you're here,
working. Sorry.
that's good. As long as we are all here, that's perfect. So now we are doing Unit 3, equality, diversity, and inclusion. In the early years setting. So just now, Hiba was explaining a bit about equality. Yeah, sorry, Hiba, we interrupt you. Can you repeat what you said about equality?
yeah, I think the equality we should treat all the kids the same, especially if they have special need or any disability. She should be treated like the other child.
Excellent. That's a very good answer. So equality means have equal right in the status, in the opportunities for all the children. So for early years education, equality is all about fairness and make sure that children are not differentiated. So we all treat them as equal. No matter their background, their abilities, their nationalities. Excellent answer. So that's equality. How about diversity? Do we know what's the meaning of diversity?
No, I don't know.
Okay, diverse means having many different unique features. It is important in any early year setting that the diversity of children and their families is recognized and celebrated. This means valuing differentiations differences between the children, languages, culture, backgrounds. So we celebrate the differences between the children. Can you see my screen or you can't see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So diversity, do we know what's diversity? Diversity means celebrating the people's differences, no matter, and recognizing they are from totally different background, from different nationality, they have different values, different cultures, backgrounds. We celebrate this, especially
Yes.
now we are here in the UK. We are multicultural and very diverse society, and we all celebrate this. We're all British. There is no differentiation between someone coming from, for example, Afghanistan and someone coming from, let us say, America or Russia or Europe. We all here have the same rights, equal opportunities. Okay, so that's diversity. What's inclusion? So the inclusion is the process of identifying and understanding and breaking down barriers to participation. So if there is a barrier between, for example, the child doesn't speak English very well because his family at home, they always speak, let us say, Arabic or Urdu or Hindi, for example. So we need to include this child in our program, in our activities. So the inclusion is breaking down barriers and make everyone involved. So this process of identifying and understanding and breaking down barriers and barriers to participation. So that's mean children should be given the same right, same access and opportunities to learning. Inclusion is closely linked to equal opportunity. So it's very much linked between equality and inclusion. So let us go back and check the differences between all these three terms. So equality means having equal right and status, rights, and opportunities for early years education. Equality is about fairness, making sure that all the kids have equal rights in the nursery. That's equality. What's inclusion? Diversity. Diversity means having many differences, unique features, and we celebrating the differences that we have. It is important that any earlier setting that the diversity of children and their families is recognized and celebrated. This means valuing differences in children's language, culture, background. So we celebrate these differences. We don't think like, oh no, we all should be same. No, we are different and we celebrate in this. And also inclusion. Inclusion is the process of identifying, understanding, and breaking down barriers. So when there is inclusion means we break down barriers so we can make all the children included in our activities, in our events. There is no differences between people, so we include them in our activities. They all have same right to access the opportunity. They all have same right to learning. And what about discrimination? Do we know what's discrimination? So now we know what's equality, what's diversity, what's inclusion, what's discrimination. It's totally opposite to what we have spoken. So discrimination can be described as unfairness, unfair treatment of a group of people due to prejudice. In the early setting, children, staff, and parents may experience discrimination through the action or attribute of other. Under Equality Act, there are 9 protect characteristics, and having one of these should not put a person in a discrimination disadvantages. So let us go back and check what's the question all about. So for us, as we said, to answer the question, I'm going to open my page, and you see here enable editing is very important. So I enable editing, and now we start answering. So equality is mean all that we treat all the children equally. We give them all the right to access our events, our activities, no matter what the differences they have. They all should have equal opportunity. Okay? And then we go back, it says describe diversity. Diversity is mean we all different, and the early setting should be celebrating the children differences. Recognize it and celebrate it, the children and their families' differences. and valuing these differences in terms of languages, culture, background, whatever. And also there is inclusion, which means the process of identifying and understanding the barriers between the children and us and breaking these barriers for them to participate in the activities or events or any other activities we do in the childcare. So whatever their needs, we should be giving them the same right. We should always take care, give them the same opportunities to learning and include them in our activities. So if I answer, so this is inclusion. And now discrimination, the last one. Discrimination is mean unfairness treatment. So if we unfairly treated any child because of his language, because of his culture, because of his background, that's mean this is what we do, is a discrimination. If we treat them unfairly. In the early setting, children, staff, or parents may experience discrimination through the action or attitude of others. So how people can experiment discrimination, we can experiment discrimination through the attitude. So people can give you attitude, can be looking at you from up to down in a different way, or maybe think, oh, this person doesn't speak English well, maybe she shouldn't be in our nursery. This is all discrimination. And also maybe you discriminate the children themselves. You put them in one bigger group for the children who speaks English, and then you put another group for children who do not speak English, and then you don't even give them same importance. You don't give them same
Attention.
opportunity. Yeah, exactly. So this is all discrimination. So anyone can suffer from discrimination. The person who works in care, the parents, the children. It depends on the attitude of the people surrounding them. Under the Equality Act 2010, there are 9 protected characteristics for this, which is age, disability, gender, and marriage status, pregnancy, race, religion, sex, sexual orientation. So all these are protected by the Equality Act 2010. So if I was going to answer the discrimination part, I would say discrimination is unfairly treating the other person, and this person could be a child, could be the child's parents, could be someone who works in care, in the child care.
Yes.
Okay, and you can say under the Equality Act 2010, there are 9 characteristics which is protected by this act. They are age, disability, gender, marriage status, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion, sex, and sexual orientation. So now I fully answered question 1. Is there any questions?
No.
Okay, excellent. So now question 2, it says explain current legislation and statutory guidelines, guidance relating to equality, diversity, and inclusion. So if I go to 2.1, I will find exact same question here in the book. There we go. 1.2, sorry. Explain current legislation and statutory guidance relating to equality, diversity, and inclusion practice. So can you think about current legislation relates to equality, diversity, and inclusion? We just spoken about one, do you remember, just now in the discrimination? We said the Equality Act 2010.
Yeah.
Correct? So this is one of them. So let us go down. The Equality Act 2010 is the most important legislation for the equality, diversity in the UK. It replaced and updated 9 previous equality laws in England, Scotland, and Wales. And then we can talk about it same as what we did there. We say 9 characteristics protected by this law, which are age, disability, gender, marriage, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion, sex, and sexual orientation. So this is all about Equality Act 2010. If you need to write a little bit more about it, it says, under the Equality Act 2010, all children should be given the same right and opportunity so that they are able to reach their full potential. Okay, so under this act, the children should be given the same right and opportunities so that they are able to reach their full potential. Now, another legislation, which is the Special Education Need Code of Practice 2015. So this code of practice is for those responsible for education of children with SEND, which is special educational needs, from birth to the age of 25 in England. So this special legislation is protecting the children from the age of, from birth until they are 25. It aims to ensure that all children and young people are included in the life of the nursery, school, or college, and they are able to participate and develop as much as possible. Okay, so first legislation. So if I was going to answer this question, I will put down all these legislation, write a little bit of description about each one of these legislation. Why? Just to show that I understand them, I know how to use them in the nursery setting. It's very important because you are now level 2, you're not level 1. So when you answer the question, you don't put just the legislations. I will put the legislations, and then under each legislation, I'll put just short description just to show that I understand what does it mean. So for number 1, Equality Act 2010, which means it is the most important legislation in the UK regarding equality and diversity. And under this legislation, children should be given the same right and opportunities so they are able to participate in any activities and reach their full potential. Number 2 is Special Educational Need Code of Practice 2015. This code is responsible for the children from age 25 till from the birth until they are 25. And do they, like, is it dealing with all the children? No, it's dealing with the children who have who have special educational needs. They should be given the same rights, same access to the activities, and they should be involved in our activities as much as we can for their development to reach their full potential. Is this understood so far?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, we have the third one, which is the Human Act, the Human Rights Act 1998. We studied this in the last session. Do you remember what it's all about? Well, from its name, Human Rights Act 1998. So under this act, it means we all the humans have got their own right to achieve our full potential. So it is the main piece of equality and diversity legislation which affects early years setting and school. The United Nations set these standards on human rights in 1948. So since 1948, the United Nations have set standards for human rights, which become a law in the UK in 2000. So under the Human Rights Act, how we should treat the children? We should
treat them in equality.
Yeah, in an equal way. That's perfect, Hiba. Thank you. We should treat the children in an equal way. We should all recognize their rights to access to activities, their right to get their full potential of their learning. That's very good. So under this act means that the setting and schools should act in a way in which compatible with human rights. So we always, whatever we do in the nursery, we should be following the Human Rights Act. They should also ensure that their policies and procedures are up to date for all the staff. So the Human Rights Act, we don't follow only for the children, also for the adults who work in childcare. So they all have rights. So the nursery should always update their policies and procedure to follow this legislation. Okay, so what we have here, let us recap. We have number 1, the Equality Act 2010. We have number 2, the Special Educational Need Code of Practice 2015. And also we have the Human Rights Act 1998. So if you answer it this way and you put little bit of description on each of these legislations, that means you answer the question. So let us answer it now. If you go here, because here it says explain, it doesn't say can you identify the current legislation. If it says identify the current legislation, I'll be just putting number 1, number 2, number 3 act, and that's it. But when it says explain current legislation and statutory, so what I need to write them down and also put brief description about them. So First of all, the Equality Act 2010. This is most important legislation for equality diversity in the UK. And under the Equality Act 2010, all children should be given the same right and opportunities so that they are able to reach their full potential. Number 2, the Special Educational Need Code of Practice 2015. This code of practice is for those responsible for the education of children with special educational need from birth to 25. It aims to ensure that all children and young people are included in the life of the nursery, school, college, / university until they are 25, okay? And they are able to participate and develop as much as possible. The last one, which is the Human Rights Act 1998. Under this act, it's all about equality, diversity in this legislation. So what does this mean as well? Can you tell me what's the Human Rights Act 1998 all about? It's mean in the earlier setting, and schools should act in a way which is compatible with the human rights. So we give all the children their rights to participate, to express themselves, and also we give the right to the people who work in childcare. So the nursery should always have to update their policies and procedure so that it reflects people's right. So up to here, are we all okay with what we have discussed already? Or do you want me to repeat it? Are we okay so far?
Sorry, what is the table?
This
ECH?
table?
Yeah, convention, right? What it is?
Yeah, this is because we said here the
Yes.
Human Rights Act 1998 have many rights. So, which is the right to life, the right to freedom, the right to be free from slavery, the right to liberty and security, the right to a fair trial, the right to no punishment without law, the right to respect for private family life, the right to freedom of thought, belief, and religion.
Okay, it's kind of human rights.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just to give you what's the right, because we talked about Human Rights Act. For me, I'm just going through it because just to explain right of the children to participate, right of the workers in the childcare to have their full potential, the right to, for example, access to the good training, to have a good work environment. So there are so many rights we can discuss, but this is, they just put a timetable here, a table for you to explain what's all about human rights. So for us as a human, we have so many rights. So the right to life, to live a proper life, the right to freedom from slavery, the right to liberty and security, fair trial, right to education, right to have no punishment without law, the right for private family life, the right to be free when you discuss your religion belief. So there are so many rights, and they put it here for you so you can just understand what does it all mean by human rights. But when you answer the question, you don't need to put all this. All I need you to say that the Human Rights Act is a very important piece of legislation about equality, diversity, and inclusion in the UK. The United Nations was focusing on this since 1948. And we, as we work in a nursery, we should all recognize that all these children, they have the right to participate, they have the right to reach their full potential. Also, the people who work in childcare, they should have fair treatment, the right to have a good working environment, for example, good I recognize salary, all these rights to achieve their full potential for children and for the people who work in care. So is this understood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what I want you to do when you answer this question, put these three legislations and just brief description about each of these legislations. As you have here, you have so many examples. You can even say here part of this. You can say the people who work in a nursery, they have the right to access training, to have the employer paying for their education. They have the right to be freely expressing themselves. They have the freedom and right to express their religion belief, to have a good working environment. So you can just talk about what's the right there. Like for the children, their right is to be treated fairly and equally, to be given the opportunity to reach their full potential. For the people who work in care, they have right, for example, to have a fair working environment, positive and good atmosphere at work. They have their right to have good salaries, good training, right to education if they want to. Yeah?
Yeah.
Just give examples. Okay, now if I want to go and answer this question. 2.1, identify policies and procedure relating to equality, diversity, and inclusion practice. So now I need to identify policies and procedures. So if I go back, look for 2.1 is here. Identify policies and procedure relating to equality, diversity, and inclusion practice. So what is the policies and procedure? Can you think about any policies could be relating to equality, diversity, and inclusion? Obviously, from the name, so we have every setting, like even now in the college, it doesn't need to be a nursery, they all have equality and diversity policy. It's very important for any company in the UK. So for a nursery, they would have to have equality and diversity policy. Number 2, special educational need and disability inclusion policy. And number 3, behavior policy. So these are 3 policies should be always, every nursery should have equality and diversity policy, special educational needs and disability and inclusion policy and behavior policy. Very good. So if we want to talk about them, because if you go here, it says identify them, so we need not to just write them down, we need to brief description about each one of them. So equality and diversity policy, this policy should set out the setting approach to equality in all areas and how this will be carried out. This is good practice as well as being legal requirement, as it is emphasized to children the importance of respect towards others. So what does all this mean? Equality and diversity policy. It means any nursery would approach equality in all areas they have. So I use equality. If I'm running a nursery, if I'm the manager there, I should always make sure equality in everything and for everyone. So I don't differentiate between the employees. I don't differentiate between the kids. So this policy set out approach to equality in all areas and how should be carried out by the nursery. As good practice, the legal requirement emphasize these legislation. Why? Because children need to learn respect. They need to learn that we're all, no matter how different we are all equal, and we all have the same right to access any opportunities in the nursery, for example. So the children need to learn respect. That's why equality and diversity is very important. So number one, equality and diversity. This policy should be in any care setting, in any child care setting, and which means approaching equality in all sector, in all areas in the nursery. It's very good practice. Why? Because it teaches children to respect others. Number two, special educational need, diversity, disability inclusion policy. So why do we have this policy? This policy is very important. Why? So this policy is very important in any child care setting because it shows the importance of including all the children. So let us say you have normal children and you have one disabled child who can't participate in all activities and can't do much because he's on wheelchair. So when we do any activities, we should include him. So we should always think, for example, his name is Paul. We can't leave Paul sitting in a corner and get all the children playing football. We need always to think about including him in any way. So rather than football, maybe it's a handball, or maybe we use a balloon, or maybe we use something that we can include all children. So special educational need policy. This is a very important policy in all child care setting. It's all about inclusion. So according to this policy, we need to include all children from the start of their early years education until they are grown up. They all to be included. Is this understood, this special educational need policy?
Yes.
Very good. So it is very important policy because we need to include all the children, no matter if they have disabilities, if they have special need education. We need to include them in our activities to get them as developed as much as we can. Now we have the third one, which is the behavior policy. This policy describes the setting approach to children behavior and how it will be managed by staff. It should show how the setting will be as inclusive as possible when working with children who have special educational needs, and how it will focus on positive reinforcement for behavior of include all children. So we need to include all children. Behavior policy, it's all about how we deal with the children's behavior. Okay, how the staff manage these children. It should show how the setting will also be as inclusive as possible for all children, whether they have disabilities or whether they don't. So our nursery should be as inclusive as possible for everyone. So it focuses on positive and reinforcement of positive behavior. So is this understood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. So the behavior policy, this policy describes the setting approach to children's behavior and how they deal with how they manage the children's behavior. And this should be inclusive for everyone. So the nursery should be always inclusive for everyone, no matter if they have disability or if they don't have disability.
Yes.
We should always focus on positive reinforcement in the organization. So that's been answered. Now we need.
Can I ask something in this?
Of course.
Is it every nursery have their policy for how to treat the kids or how to deal with different situations? Or
Yes.
how we learn that? Because
yeah. When you go and join any nursery,
yeah,
you should always ask for their policy and procedure. If you can't find it on their website, normally every organization would have their policy, especially educational institutions. They always have their policy and procedure on their website for people to check and understand. So whenever you join, sorry.
Even if I am volunteer, I should ask about it.
Yes, I would say so. Why? Because it tells you exactly how the nursery would act with children with disabilities, how the best practice for them, how they make them all participate. It shows you a little bit more of things you might not even like study in our course.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe every nursery should, because let us say there are more nurseries are focused on special needs. Yeah? So they should show you exactly how you deal with these situations, how you can express a positive enforcement for their behavior, how you can work with their behavior, because at the moment you're not very trained on dealing with children with disabilities. They will give you training, but also you need to follow the behavior policy. Is very important.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now, okay, 5 point 1, understanding how to support children's development. So if I go a little bit further, I need to go from here to understand children's development. Okay. Understand how to develop children's development. So how can we, what is first the question? Describe the sequential development from birth to 7 years in the following areas. Cognitive. So what is sequential development? It is a term used to describe the stages of learning and development. So there are different sequence or different stages for the children's development. Are we all writing notes about these, what we discussing right now?
Yes.
Try next time to maybe bring pen and paper, write notes, or maybe bring your computer, open the files, and follow us so you know which questions are we answering right now. So we are answering 1.1 in page 2.
Is that unit 5?
Unit 5.
Okay, good.
It just, these 2 units are very, very small. So what I did was I put them together.
Unit 3 and 5.
Yes, they're very small. And you can answer them in no time. So I thought this will bring you closer to finish the subject. Yeah?
Okay.
If you feel like you can do only one of them as answers, you can do one of them. But if you feel like you can do both, I would highly recommend to do both because they are very short and small.
We're going to unit 4 again next time.
Yeah, unit 4 is long, so I'm going to do it on its own tomorrow, next week.
All right.
Yeah. So now describe the sequential development of birth to 7 years in the following areas: cognitive, language, physical, and emotional, social, brain development. So there are so many different stages for the development of the children. Now you need to describe each one of them. So let us go to the cognitive. Where is it? Sorry. So there are stages for learning and development for most of the children. The first one, the key importance for us, reason why we should learn these stages. First of all, to recognize when children may need additional support. For example, you have 1 year-old child, but he can't even like say anything. He can't move. He can't. So if you see another child who is in his same age, but he's doing a lot more activities than this child, then you think this definitely has got some educational needs, some extra needs. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then we need a bit more activities to support this child. So why we put these development stages? Because we need to teach the children to give them equal opportunities. So if they are not developing same way, let us say children who are 2 or 3 years old, they all start speaking English, they all communicating. One of them doesn't, and there are two cases. Either this child parents at home only speak in different language, so his progression is very slow, or maybe he's got some special needs. So you need to check what they are speaking at home, what's the language they are talking at home, and then you would understand if he's got special needs. Maybe they all speak in English at home, then you will be telling them that this child has got some special needs, or then you might give him more activities, different activities, just to get him or her involved in your activities, yeah? So how to provide right toys, resources, different planning activities. So if this child cannot participate with the others, then you need to create different activities, different toys, different resources, so for them to be equally participated. To share the information with the parents and others. So whenever you notice that this child is not developing as much as others, then you inform the parents. Maybe the parents, they don't think their child has got some special needs, but it's good to know. Sometimes you realize it, you think he can't kick the ball same way other people doing, or he can't do this activities like other people, then he's got some special needs. So if you focus on him more, give him different type of toys, bring another type of resources for them, that will help them a lot. So what's cognitive? What's the difference between cognitive and language?
Shall we translate?
Yeah, what was the difference between them? Do we know? So cognitive is development referred to reason, is to thinking, to understanding. Yeah, so it's when this child develops according to reasoning or thinking, understanding. So the cognitive development is important for knowledge, for growth. It's different from language. The language is how they talk to you, while cognitive is all about the activities in their brain, how their memories, how they participate, how they understand, how they remember, how if they have any relation problems, if they have any memory problems, for example, if they have number sense, are they able to count normally like other people, other kids? For example, you say from 1 to 10, they can't count correctly, then they have cognitive problems. So the cognitive development means suffering. So cognitive is anything to do with the brain development. So do we understand what's cognitive?
Yes.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's all about their brain development. The cognitive development is about their thinking, about their, sorry, say again? It's all about their thinking, about their understanding, about it is important for their knowledge, for their growth. For us, we need to monitor the children learning and check if they have any problem, then we can solve it. So are they good in problem solving? Are they good in counting numbers? Are they good in remembering things? All these brain development are cognitive. The second one is the language. So what's the so as you can see here, let us get back to the book. It says cognitive development. We have seen the brain development over time. We can see the results of changes to the brain for the children. One of the interesting changes that takes place in the way that children ability to think, to solve problems, is increases. They should increase in their abilities. How they think, how they speak. This should become faster. For example, here the book gives you example. As an example, we may see that a simple jigsaw is quite hard for toddlers. So you know the jigsaw, the small, it's like a bricks where you put it all together, that you build, and then you start taking one by one. So if some of the toddlers find it difficult, while other toddlers, they find it easy, they can work with it fast, then there is, they have some cognitive problems. They have some mental, like brain development problems. Then we recognize that they have special needs, and there is a concern about them, yeah? And also as a cognitive as well, like learning and memories. If they can't remember things, that means they have cognitive problems. If they can't count, if all the children can do certain activities while other can't, they have some brain development problems. So this is all cognitive development. Now the other type of development is the language development. So can you tell me what's the language development? Obviously from the name.
The language development to talk and understand. No?
Exactly, that's very good. So language development is when the child can learn how to talk and to understand others.
Yeah.
It is important skills. They need to develop it from birth until they leave the nursery. So language is also involved in thinking and remembering information. It takes children around 4 years before they master the language. So before they leave the nursery, they should be speaking a very good, they have very good language skills, talking and understanding. If you see the child is not developing as fast as others, then there is he either have special needs or maybe they don't speak same language at home, not English. So babies and children have to master several things in order to understand and talk language development. So what's the things they need to master? What's the things they need to be good at it to develop their language?
Talking.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah, they need to start talking. They need to start understanding the facial expression, because sometimes you don't only talk to the people, you also have some facial expression. They need to learn it, and they need to express and have good express their feelings, what they want to talk about, make a good communication. So for the language development, the children learn how to talk and how to understand. These are very important skills. The children will have to learn them while they are in the nursery. By age of 4, they should master the language. If they don't, then maybe they have some special needs. Babies and children would master several things to learn the language. They need to have a good memory. They also have to understand the facial expression. They need to also to learn how to express the language, how to have good communication. Okay, so we have also, as we said, the body language. So when the babies and children, when you look at their faces, you should notice when we talk about things or show them toys, how they act. So their facial expression should be developing while as well their language skills. It's very important. So the first words that babies recognize are usually ones that their parents or carriers say most often. So, for example, the mother with the child always say, when she play with him, cuckoo, or any word like mommy or any word, they say almost every day in front of the child. They pick up faster than other words. Obvious, that's obvious, yeah? So, for example, if the children with us always hear the parents talking about, let us say, money, or let us say about neighbors, or they learn this faster than anything else. So always they pick up what they can hear from their carers or parents most often. And also might be their baby's name. For example, if you keep calling them by their names all the time, first thing they will learn is their name, or the food name, or the toy name. Then they start repeating this word. And also there is expressive language. What does it mean? It's the sound. So it's either the sound, so for the babies, they hear the sound. For the first word usually do not appear until the children are a year or so old. Even then, children may only use 1 or 2 words. So by the 1 year old, they might have just 1 or 2 words, not more. But what are they? The words which they hear more often. And also talking and developing quickly between the age of 2 and 3. Between the age 2 and 3, they develop very fast. They start picking up most of the words that they hear in front of them. And then after that, by 4, they should master the language, and they should be talking normally and frequently, fluently with the parents, with the carers. That's by age of 4. So now when we talk about cognitive, we said is the brain development, and the language is their talking skills and how they develop. So if I want to answer this question, I would be saying for the language, I will say for the language development, I would say the children would need to learn how to talk and understand. It is important skills. And by 4 years old, they need to master the language. If they don't, then that means they have some special needs. Babies and children, they master several things, not only the talking, they start mastering the facial expressions and how they can understand others from their facial expressions. Also, they need to use expressive language and how they express themselves to others. So the first words babies recognize is usually the words which they hear their parents and their carers say more often in front of them. So if we put it in bullet points, in the first year, babies might learn 1 or 2 words, and mostly the words which they hear from their parents or the child carer more often. And then by the year 2 to 3, they start picking up fast. They learn lots of words. They learn the facial expression and how to express themselves. And then by after that, by 4 years old, they should master the language. This is how I would answer the question. Is this understood so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, physical. What's physical? Physical development. Do we know what physical development is?
It's like walking or holding the stuff or touching.
That's very good. That's very good, Hiba. Thank you. So, physical development is being able to move, to hold objects, allows us to be independent. So at first, babies need adults to do everything for them. They cannot even hold their heads. So sometimes you see the baby, you can't really make him sit for a while because they fall either on this side or on this side. Why? Because their heads is a little bit big for their body.
Yeah.
So even their head, they can't hold it. This is when they are babies. They cannot do that. However, by the end of their first year, they can move around. They pick up objects and drink from their bottles. Physical development is usually divided into 2 features. First of all, fine motor movements, and second thing is gross motor movement. So what's each one of them? So first of all, gross motor movement is being able to move, but also to balance. Balance is very important. As we said, the child, when they are really small, they can't even balance their body. Their head is too big for them. So gross motor movement is being able to move, but also to balance and control the body. It is important compared to language development. Compared to language development is very important as well. So we need the physical development and we need the language development to say that these children, they have no special needs. So compared to the language development, these skills are learned quickly by babies. One of the easiest movement that babies learn is to lift their head and to control its movement. It has been recognized that babies follow a parent or follow a pattern to gain control over their body. So they have certain pattern. For example, they move little bit of their body, they move, and then they move their hand, then they move their head. So they have a certain pattern to move or to do things. You can learn this from two words download. Let us see what's there. So I don't want you really to go through details about what the movements like. For example, 3 months, they move their heads to watch things. 6, they will set up with a supporting item. At 9 months, they set up alone. At 12 months, they start walking. 1 to 2 years, they often start playing with toys, enjoy climbing into a low chair. By the age 2 to 3 years, they walk upstairs and they start moving more. If they can throw the ball, they can ride the tricycle. By year 3, they jump. They start from low steps in the stairs into 2 feet together. They start walking. By year 4, they sit with their knees crossed. They start running. They start catching a ball, for example. By year 5, they walk on the narrow line. They start recognizing that this is a line, they have to walk on it. And then by 6 to 7 years old, they increase their coordination. Now they are able to throw and catch the ball. They can ride a bicycle. They can do lots more activities like swimming, for example.
Yes.
So this is all gross motor movements. So if we want to talk where we are now, we talk about physical. So to answer this question, I would just go to the physical from the beginning. I say being able to move and hold objects allows us to be independent. The children, when they are young, very small, they can't even move their heads. They can't put it up. And quickly they develop. For the first year, they can start moving quickly. They start moving step by step. They can pick up objects. They can drink. And also from the bottles. And also for the physical development, we can divide it into fine motors or gross motors. Okay?
Okay.
So now, what's the development all about? It's being able to balance their body and move. Yeah, so if we compare it to the language development, it's very, very important as well. These children need to learn how to move their bodies. So first, they will start moving their heads. They will have a pattern to move their bodies, and then slowly they will start having more steps. Like here, we can say by the age of 3 months, they move their heads to watch things. By age of 6 months, they set up with some support. By the age of 9 months, they set up alone without support. By the age of 12, they stand and can walk to the furniture, for the sofa, for example. By the age of 1 to 2 years old, they can stand from sitting. They can play with toys. They move on or climb the low chair. And from the 2 to 3 years old, they can walk up to the stairs. Then they have to run after them. They start climbing. They can throw the ball. They can participate with you. By the age of 3, they start jumping. They have from low step with 2 feet together. They start moving faster. They can start using tricycle. By the age of 4, they will be sitting with knees crossed. They start running. They start running. They start playing with a large ball. By the age of 5, they can walk on the narrow line. They can stand on 1 feet. They can do a lot more. And also after that, obviously they are more grown up. By 6 to 7, they can ride the bicycle. They can do swimming. They can do a lot more activities than just walking and jumping. So this is all about the physical. How about the emotional development for the children? Do we know how the children emotionally develop? Also, we haven't spoken about fine motor development. This is all for the, sorry, we missed that. The gross motor development. What about the fine motor development? Do we know what is it? This is all with the physical. When you talk about the physical, we talk about how they develop, and we say a little bit about the gross motor development, and also we talk about the fine motor development. So what's the fine motor development? Okay. So these are small movements. It's not like walking or jumping or running. This is just fine ones, some small movement. These ones all about how the baby is able to hold or shake items.
We need to write all the table.
Say again?
We need to, in the answer, we need to write the table, some of the table.
Yeah, not the table. You can just say in the age between, for example, just simple basic things. This is for the gross development, for the gross motor development. You just say between 3 to 6 months they can do this. 6 months they can do this. 9 months they, like, just a few examples. You don't need to write the whole thing. Yeah, because we still have to talk about the physical development anyway. We say because you're talking here about the physical development, you say the physical development is being able to hold objects, to move, to run, but this comes over time. The child will go through 2 different development to make full physical development, which is fine motor development and gross motor development. So gross motor development is here, which is being able to move, to balance their head, control their body. It is important to compare, it's very important compared to the language development. And the skills will, the children will pick up very quickly. They will learn how to move, how to lift their bodies, to lift their head, they will follow certain pattern to do these movements, and the children, for example, between 3 to 6 months, you just write some examples about how they develop slowly to reach their full potential at 6 or 7. And then the second type of development, which is the fine motor development. This is all about, we're still in the physical, by the way, yeah? So the fine motor development is mean small movements to allow the children to hold and move objects. Okay? How they can play with puzzles, how they can play with jigsaw, how the fine movement are needed for children to use tools such as pencil, any other toys, the Lego they use, or the toys. All these, when they move them, is fine motor development. It's not about the whole body, it's about moving objects.
Yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Now, how about the emotional? Let us go back to talk about the emotional development. Emotional and social development. So emotional and social development are often studied together. So you can't really separate emotional from social, because when you meet people, this is how when you develop your emotional, or when you separate it from people, this is how you develop your emotional development, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is because the feeling of the children have often affect how easily they make friends and form relationships. So not only being part of the group, is also how they feel about others. Is when it gets developed, then they make relationships, friends. So emotional and social development often studied together. Why? Because most children have often like their feeling affect how easily they can make friends and how they can form relationships. Emotional development is all about how children learn to express and control their feelings. It is about how children start to build an awareness of themselves and their identity. This is this turn is linked to confidence. So when they work on their emotional development, they start building confidence as well. Social development is about how children often make relationships with others, understanding others' motives, but also learn how they can adapt their behavior to fit in other groups or other situations. Okay, so when we talk about the emotional and social development, where is it? Here we have emotional and we have social. So we need to separate them when we talk about each one of these development. Because like when you follow a 1.1 question, you will have too many different, they separated them. So we have the emotional and we have the social. So how to describe the emotional development? The emotional development is all about the children and how they learn to express and control their feelings and emotions. It's all about how children start to build awareness and about how they feel themselves and how they can identify themselves. And also it in turn is linked to confidence. So when they start their emotional developments, they build their confidence, and like they both connected together. And also now the social development is the ability for the children to make friends, to make relationships, understand their motives, understand their behavior, how they affect on making friends, and how they can deal with the situations. It's very important. So social and emotional development take more time than learning physical development. So for the children, physical development is easy to learn because they need to move there, then they have to move their body. While for the social and emotional development, they might be sitting somewhere, they don't want to talk. If they don't talk, they don't communicate, then they will hardly develop their social and emotional development. So children's emotion and social development is also linked to language development. If they have a good language, then they can develop their social activities fast because they can communicate with other kids. While if their language development is very slow, then they might not be able to participate in the group, might not be able to be part of groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to answer this question, it's just basic. Emotional development is all about how the child learns to express himself or herself and control their feelings. And also all about the child starting to build their awareness of themselves, about how they feel about others, and they make their own identity. So each one of these kids, when they emotionally develop, they express their own identity. And always emotional development linked to the confidence and how the child build up their confidence. Social development is all about how the children form relationships and how they have friendship with others. They need to understand more about themselves, about others, about the motives, why they need to join these social groups. And they also need to learn how to adapt their behavior, how to be part of these social groups. So for the social and emotional, you can say the social and emotional development, they both take time. They are not like the physical development that the child needs, so they develop faster. The social and emotional development will take longer time. The brain, because it links to the brain maturity as well as the experience. So children need to develop their emotional and how they feel about others, how they feel about certain situations, and also it's linked to the language development because they need to develop their language so they can be part of other social groups. So now the last one in this question, which is brain development. So what about brain development? Do we know? Can any one of you tell me what's the brain development for the kids? I think we already done the brain development somewhere. Where is it? We've spoken about the brain development.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We said it is about the child, the progress, the develop of the child memory, understanding, or counting, something like that.
Very good. Excellent. Do you know more about the brain development for the children, guys?
Yeah.
Like Hiba expressed was the brain development for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Counting.
Anyone can add to what Hiba said?
Yes.
So the children will have their brain developed from the birth until they are 3 years old. They need to, this brain development will affect all areas of their growth. Until they are 4 years old, they should be speaking perfectly. Before that, they go through different stages of development. So brain development is all part of the cognitive development. So when we spoken about this brain development is here, making a new connection in early childhood. Where is it? Sorry, cognitive development. This is cognitive development is all about the brain development. So when we talk about the brain development, is the child will have will develop rapidly between the birth until they are
4 years.
5 years old, for example. So how the brain development would work. They develop their memory, they develop their language, they develop their physical activities. This is all brain development.
Yes.
So why the brain development is important in early childhood? So the brain development built on itself. So each baby will have to will get this development by themselves. The connection eventually link how they link with others, how they talk, how they move, will enable the children to move, to speak, to think, to do complex things.
To
So this is
understand.
all, yeah, to understand, very good, Hiba, to have memory. So we always check the child brain development to make sure that they are developing as much as other people, kids in their same age. Or otherwise they might have special needs which we need to take care of it and give them extra support. Is this understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so for the the way I answer it, like for the cognitive, where we are here, for the cognitive, I would just talk about the cognitive activities. And then for the brain activities, I will talk about the, where is it? Yeah, for the brain activities, I will talk about how they develop their memory, how they develop their movement, how they develop their vocabulary, language. This is all included in the brain activities. Where is it? Yeah, you see here cognitive development. It's all about brain development. It's part of the brain development. So this is just a tricky part of the question, because you already talked about the cognitive development, and brain development is part of the cognitive development, because it's all about the brain activities, how the brain develops, how the baby can start walking, how talking, acting. So they all link together. So when you talk about cognitive development, it's here, while if you go a little bit further, you will have the brain development. So the brain development is the first one they explain in the book, which is in page 85. So the brain development, babies are born, brain development is the control center of the brain is the control center of the body, and so it is in charge of all the areas of the development. So babies are born with billions of numerous, so lots of cells in their brains, and when it comes together, they create electrical signals so the body will act in a certain way. At first, the network in the brain alone, which the signals passes, are simple. So these signals the brain passes to the body is very simple, while later on the brain will develop rapidly over the first couple of years. Then the signals will get more complicated that the brain sent to the body. So you will develop the 5 senses. You will have more activities to do. In the case of language and attachment and some other areas of development, it is through that when we're born with the template for these connections, which is why patterns of development are simple across babies. So if we want to talk about the brain development, we say the brain is the center of control of the body, which always send signals to the rest of the body, and the body will follow these signals. When the babies are young, these signals are very simple and not developed, so the body will not be able to do all the activities they have to do in a different age group. So the baby would not be able to move their heads, for example, until they are 6 months. Why? Because the signals are coming from the brain are very simple. And then at the first, the brain will go with passing simple signals, as we said, which allows the baby to breathe, to swallow, to do simple activities, not complicated one. Then the brain will develop rapidly after this over the first couple of years. And the results are amazing, because the child will learn how to talk, how they walk, how they move things, they move their heads. In the case of language, they also attempt to develop because of the brain development. So is this understood?
Yes.
Yeah, so when you talk about the brain development, you just say that the brain is the center of the control of the body, and the brain sends signals to the rest of the body to do certain activities. When the babies are very small, they will have billions of these cells in their brain, so the brain will send very simple signals to the rest of the body, so the body wouldn't do only simple things like swallow things, breathe in, moving eyes, for example. And then later on, the brain will develop faster, rapidly over the couple of years, and these will result in many areas development, like movement, physical activities. Also, they develop their language, languages, and develop their emotional and social activities. They all relate to the brain development. So we answer this question fully. Are we clear up to here, or do you want me to repeat anything?
It's clear, thank you.
Yeah, clear, very good. So now we need to do this question. Explain the difference between the sequence of development and rate of the development. So what's the difference between the sequence and the rate of development? Okay, let us go to question number 1.2. Okay, so explain the difference between the sequence of development and rate of the development. So we have seen that babies and children development follow patterns. So as we said, the pattern, when they are very small, they can't move their head, then they suddenly start developing, they start sitting with the support, but after that they start pulling furniture to be able to stand, then they start walking few steps. All these are sequence of their developments. So we have seen that children and babies develop following patterns. Babies cannot walk until they can sit up alone. So they wouldn't be straight away going walking. The first they sit, then they walk. Or they can't straight away start sitting. They start moving their heads, their body, and then they start sitting, for example. So they have certain pattern. This pattern of development is known as a sequence of development. When working with children, professionals also need to think about the rate of development. So what's the rate of the development? This is about the progress of the babies and the children are making the milestones that we have took at are useful to check babies, children rate of their development. So what's the sequence? Sequence is a pattern for the children development, and the rate from its name, when you say rate, it means how fast they can develop, how fast they can make this progress. Okay, so when it says what's the difference between sequence of development and rate of development? How to answer this question? Do we know?
Yeah, we'll talk about the child development. He should follow a pattern.
Very good.
And if we talk about the rate of development, the progress of the baby and child are making, and the milestone. Yeah.
Very good. So to explain this, I would say the babies and children are developing following a pattern. So these children, they wouldn't be able to stand until they are able to sit. They wouldn't be able to sit until they are able to move their heads and their body towards one corner, for example.
Yeah.
So they have certain sequence, certain pattern, and this pattern called sequence. So they can't do straight away. They can't straight away jump. They need to learn how to sit, then they have to stand, and then they start a little bit walking, then they jump. Yes? So to answer this question, we say we have the babies and children development follow a pattern. Babies cannot walk until they are able to sit alone, and this development pattern will be called sequence of development. When working with children, the rate of the development means the progression for the child, how fast they can pick up and learn. So this is the rate of the development. It's all about the progress of the babies are making and the milestone that we have for the child. So what does it mean? Milestones mean a benchmark, or like we know at this age, for example, 1 year old, the child should know how to say one word or two words. If they don't, then the rate is very low for development. Yeah, so the rate of development is the progression, how fast they pick up. Progression of their development. The sequence is the pattern of their development, which means it's just the natural progression for their development. That's the sequence. But while the rate, every child has got different rate of progression. Yeah? So
Yeah.
can you see the difference?
Yes.
Can any one of you see the difference, please? Except Hiba. Obviously, Hiba, she explained it well. So the sequence, what does it mean? It means the pattern of the development. So first, the child will be moving a little bit. The child will be able to move their head, and then the child will be able to sit with our help. Then the child will be able to sit without our help. So this is pattern. This is the sequence. Every child will have to go through this. The rate in the other side is different from one child to another child. Is the progression of the development. So some children will follow the sequence of development normally. Some of them, they will learn very fast. So the rate of progression is faster. While some children will learn slowly. So the rate is lower than other children. Is this understood?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's the difference. The difference between them, the sequence. Like for me, if I was going to answer the question, I would say the children and baby development follows certain patterns. So the child cannot learn how to walk before they can move their heads or stand or sit alone without help. So this pattern called sequence of development, while the rate is for the children, the rate of the development means the progression and how fast the babies or the children can pick up and can learn and develop. So while children rate of development is not as expected, so if they learn faster than other children, their rate is slower than other children, then we need to focus on providing more opportunities or maybe they have additional learning needs. So we either, maybe the child is sitting on their own, quiet, they are not participating, so their development is very slow. It doesn't mean that he's got special needs. So we need to involve the child more, or after that, if we involve him more, is he start developing as much as others? Is the rate of development is normal or not? If not, then maybe he's got special needs. Then we provide special learning resources for him to or her to develop and learn. So now 1.3, describe areas of learning and expected early learning goals, targets with the statutory framework and curriculum study requirements for children aged from birth to 7 years. So what is the area of learning and expected early learning goals according to the framework and curriculum? So the development is partially linked to the opportunity that we given the child. So if the child have got the opportunity, they will learn. If not, they wouldn't learn. But this is partially because it depends also on their brain abilities. So children who regularly share books are more likely to develop an interest in reading, for example. So if we always give the child books, they will start loving the reading. They start loving and liking books. It depends on the activities we do with these children. In England, most early year setting and schools deliver education programs that are set out by the Department of Education. So the nurseries do not normally teach anything. Normally they follow a program set up by the Department of Education to educate these kids. So now if we follow this, it says describe areas of learning and expected early learning goals and targets within statutory framework. How are we going to discuss this? So as you can see here, early years education progress check at 2 years. So to make sure that 2 years old children are doing well with the prime areas, earlier setting must carry out an assessment for their progress. Earlier setting will talk to the parent about their children does at home to help, what they do at home to help complete the assessment. If it is through that the children may need additional support. So if the child will fail this assessment, then they might need extra attention, extra learning they need extra learning. They have additional needs. Yeah, this is what I meant. So they need extra or additional support. Parents are then encouraged to contact their professionals and or agencies to help these children. So in England, from 2 years old, what we do, we make kind of assessment. So to make sure that 2 years old children are doing well, we need to create an assessment for them to check their progression. And also we need to talk to the parents to see if the child is active at home, is he's follow certain pattern of progression. If they are not, then this child need extra support. Is this understood? So when they are 2 years old, we need to, according to the government in the UK, we need to check their progression. What we do kind of an assessment to their progress, to their abilities, to their skills. And also we check how they act at home. We check it with their parents if they are developing well. If not, they might have special needs. And we need to recognize that and consider it and provide extra learning resources and materials for the kids. Is this understood so far?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. If we go to the national curriculum, because it says here, says within the statutory framework and the national curriculum, study requirement for children age birth to 7 years old. For the national curriculum, so the national curriculum is split into 4 different stages. Children between the age of 5 and 7 years are in the key stage 1, and schools have to teach the 10 subjects of the national curriculum. So what are these 10 subjects for the national curriculum? We have English, math, science, design and technology, history, geography, art and design, physical education like PE, sport, and computing. However, not all the primary schools teach the additional curriculum, the national curriculum. It depends on the school. Some of them are academics, and free schools are not required to follow it. So if they are free schools, they're not required to follow it. They have to take part in the national test through the end of key stage 1. So for us here to talk about the national curriculum, we say the national curriculum is split into 4 different stages. The children between the ages 5 to 7 years old are in the key stage 1 school, and have to teach them 10 different subjects according to the national curriculum, which is English, math, science, design, history, geography, art, music, PE, and computing. Yes. However, for the free schools, they are not required to do all these subjects. However, the children need to take assessment at the end of the year for key stage 1. Okay, so now for us, early years progression, check into at 2 years. So for us as a nursery, we need to check to make sure 2 years old children are doing well within the prime area of early years setting, we must carry out an assessment for their progress. So, and also we need to talk with their parents to check their progress at home. If they are not following the same sequence of the progression, they might have special needs. Is this understood so far or not?
Yeah, I
Yeah?
understand.
Okay, excellent. So this is for the how we answer was we need to check them for 2 years if they are following certain sequence, if they are progressing in terms of their language, their physical abilities, their understanding, if they are not, and also check with their parents if they are doing well. If they are not doing well, they maybe have special needs, then we need different resources and different materials to teach these kids. And also for 7 years old, what we're going to do for the if between 5 to 7 years old they are in the school, so for this age we need, according to the national curriculum, we need to teach them 10 different subjects. They are here, they are English, math, science, design and technology, history, geography, art, music, physical education, which is PE, and computer. And all primary school, they follow these national curriculums, except the free schools. They are not required to follow it, but they all the schools have to take the same test at the end of the year for key stage 1. Okay, shall we stop here? Maybe we stop here. I think let us do the reflective account. Or up to here, are we understanding these questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, shall we stop here and do the rest next week, or shall we do it all? Let us check how many. I don't want you to do too much, then you get fed up with the subject. I want you to like it, understand it, and come back for more.
Okay, we can stop here. Yeah.
Yeah, so now let us see where we
1.4.
reached. Can you write down that you are in page
1.
page 4? No, we done this. No, we haven't done this. Okay. Yes, we are here. We are 1.3 in page 3. We finishing at page 6. Yeah, shall we stop here so you have do you have pen and paper?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let us stop at page 3, right? Page 3, 1.3. That's the last question we do for this subject. And let us, shall we do this one as well? Or maybe leave it for next week. Yeah, leave the reflective account for next week. So for now, if we can do until 1.3 at page 3, if we do it perfectly and correctly, that would be fine. That would be perfect. How you feel about the subject so far?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. Rather than doing all the rest, they are all similar. They are literacy, numeracy, language, physical development. You can do it if you think you can make it on your own. If not, we are doing it anyway next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
So just please write down, we are at page, we are at 1.3, page 3. so you don't mix up where we are, and we will do the rest next week, so we don't. I just want you guys to be happy with the subject. I don't want to keep piling it up, and then you will find it too much to do at home. I want you to still have time to read, to understand it, answer the questions. Maybe next time we wouldn't mix 2 units. I'll just do 1 unit at a time. I think it's easier. But the thing is, because they both very similar, they both about the development. That's why I put them together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now 1.3 and in page 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we repeat any of the questions that we have discussed so far?
No, thank you.
No.
Yeah. As we said, everything is in the book. Nothing outside the book. Like if you need to do some research on Google, that would be even better because you will learn a lot more even. But please don't copy and paste. That's very important. All you need is to write your own thoughts. You put it on the paper. So you read the book and then answer the question one by one. If you find it difficult, read the book again, go to Google, do some research, but please don't copy and paste.
Okay.
Yeah? So far, how are we doing?
It was too much.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, we stop it. So I'm not going to give you any more until next week. It was too much because you haven't read the book. So if you now, especially now, because you have lots of information in your brain about how the child develop and how they move from one stage to another stage. If you go now and answer all the questions, I can give you guarantee that by the end of the evening, you can send me the coursework for today's session. This is what level 3 are doing at the moment. As soon as we finish the session, they go do the coursework. After 1 or 2 days, they send me everything because they find it easier rather than leave it till the end of the week. They forget everything and they have to read everything.
And you're going to send us the link for this session?
Yes, I'm going to send the record. I'm going to stop recording now and send you everything so you can do your coursework, okay?
Yeah.